Our final paper this afternoon is from Paul Levinson from Fordham University, Why Time Travel is So Enjoyable.
Well, thank you. Let me start at the end and give you the punchline. I think time travel is enjoyable precisely because it's impossible. So actually, it turns out Lance doesn't owe me an apology at all. Although, as I'll explain in a minute, I don't think it's impossible for the same reason that Lance cited. And also, to be a little more clear, I think time travel is immensely enjoyable because it's impossible. Enjoyable not in reality, but in fiction. And that's something that I've certainly been enjoying since the 1950s as a viewer and a reader, and since the 1980s, more or less, as a writer. So, the problem, I think, in talking about time travel, and yet it's the basis of most science fiction, but I do think it clouds our thinking about time, is we tend to talk about time and space as if they're somehow the same thing. Now, we travel through space all the time, and clearly the history of our evolution as a species has been to be able to travel faster and faster, and eventually even off this planet. So that's been part of human life, and not only human life, part of life in general, part of existence, as far as we know, since existence itself came into being by whatever process. As far as time is concerned, we live through time, but we don't travel through time in any meaningful sense. We certainly can't travel back in time. Tina and I drove up here from Westchester County, and after this panel we're going to drive back there. That is, we traveled up here, we're going to travel back there. That's traveling through space. But we have no ability whatsoever to either speed up time, travel into the future, or travel into the past. And the reason, more than any other reason, that we don't have this ability, I would think, and in fact do think, is not really because, although it's an interesting point, if we travel to the past or the future, we'd be stuck out there in a vacuum in space. Because, you can easily say, because time and space are connected, that if you travel back in time, space would be tucked into that. You would travel back to the appropriate space. I mean, that's easy enough to imagine. But I think the real problem arises from the paradoxes that we inevitably run into whenever we travel through time. Now, just to be clear again, not all paradoxes are equal or even the same or in any way as serious paradoxes as other paradoxes. So, Zeno's paradox. There's always a half of a half. So, if I walk out and walk down the hall, how do I ever get to the end of the hall? I mean, forget about the arrow. How can I walk to the end of the hall? Because according to Zeno, there's always a half of a half. But yet, as we all know, I and you and everyone in the world does that every single instant of existence. So I think Zeno's paradox is clever, but somehow it's a misunderstanding of what moving through space is, because our reality contradicts that. But let's think about what happens when we travel to the past. And I'll give you the most famous, or maybe infamous, of all the time travel paradoxes. I travel to the past and inadvertently, or maybe deliberately, kill my poor grandfather. I feel really bad about that. He was a really nice guy. Love both my grandfathers. But I kill him. A paradox instantly arises. If I kill my grandfather, and just to, again to be more precise, before he met my grandmother, so that the two never met, therefore couldn't have sex, whether they were married or not, how then would I exist in the now to be able to get into this time machine and travel in the past? That's a pretty serious paradox. Anybody know any way out of that paradox? Well, before I tell you, there is a way out of it, but before I tell you how you can get out of it, let me just here parenthetically add, we don't need to be so violent for that paradox to happen, right? Because all you need to do is just prevent your grandparents from meeting. You don't have to kill anybody. Nobody has to die. We could just distract. I could go to the past and distract my grandfather with a scintillating conversation, or maybe like a talk that I'm giving to you right now, just long enough so that he would miss meeting my grandmother for the first time. So we don't have to kill anybody, and not only that, it doesn't have to be my grandfather, right? It could be my grandmother. So we don't have to be sexist about it either. We don't have to be ageist about it. It's actually much more effective than interfering with my grandparents would be my parents, right? That's all that it would take. And in fact, it could be any one who contributed to my genome, however far back in time we want to go. So I'm just saying that as a proviso. We call it the grandfather paradox because we come from a sexist tradition, even in science fiction. And again, it's not necessary to kill him. We could be nonviolent and the paradox would still arise. Here's the way out of it, though. There's something called the alternate worlds hypothesis. Different physicists have come up with slightly different versions of it. There's one by the name of Compton, another by the name of Wheeler. They all amount to the same thing. They say that we're actually, right now, here in this room, in just one of an infinite number of realities which exist at the same time. Some slightly different from ours, some hugely different from ours. Sometimes we might be able to travel back and forth between them. Most of the time we're totally oblivious and unaware of the other reality. So, this turns out to be a pretty neatly logical solution to the grandfather paradox because you could say, okay, I traveled to the past, I distracted my grandmother, let's again, not be sexist, but still my same scintillating conversation. So my grandmother missed meeting my grandfather in the first place, therefore I wasn't born. Right. I traveled back in time, let's call it reality one, me and my time machine, back wherever it was 100 years ago, distracted my grandmother. Therefore, I'm not born in that reality. That's, however, no longer reality one, that's reality two. In other words, the conversation I had with my grandmother triggered, thank you very much, a new reality a new reality into being, and that is different from the reality in which I came from. Okay, so PL1 from reality one travels back in time, talks to his grandmother, and at that instant, when his grandmother can't meet his grandfather, reality two is created, in which there is no PL, but that's okay because I come from reality one. You're with me so far? Doesn't matter if you are or not. I think that that is a great solution to the grandfather paradox, but unfortunately, I don't know about you, but the notion of a time traveler bringing a new world into being with every drop of the time traveler's hat is even more incredible than time travel itself. So it fails miserably on Occam's razor's nefarious test, meaning you don't bring something in that's far more crazy than what you're trying to explain and think you have a solution. Furthermore, there are kinds of time travel that don't even admit completely to that solution. One of my favorite paradoxes is what I call, and has various names, the where did it come from paradox. So here's what happens. As I said, we're going to drive back tonight, and let's say now it's 10:30, 11 o'clock, and I hear a knock at our front door. So who's this? So I get up, walk to the door, and I see a man standing outside, and it's late at night, but there's something about him. He looks familiar. He's like a pretty old guy, older than me. And so I let him in, and he says, "Look, I'm sorry to bother you. Can I just have a minute of your time? I want to leave something with you." And I say, "Look, I'm not interested if you're Jehovah's Witness or something like that. But there's something very persuasive about this guy," and he proceeds to explain to me that he is an older version of me who has access to 10 years, not to imagine, 10 years older than me, and he has come back to see me about a time machine that I am going to invent, because he's going to give me the exact instructions to build a time machine. And he leaves the papers with me and leaves. Okay, the paradox there. So where did the idea come from in the first place, right? It's a loop. It's impossible to figure that out. Then there are problems that arise with travel to the future. They're not so much paradoxes, they're problems. A really big problem is free will. Let's say one of you travels to the future and has the fortune or misfortune of seeing me tomorrow, okay? And for whatever reason, I decide to wear the same shirt tomorrow. And you travel to the future and you come back and you tell me, "Hey, why are you wearing the same shirt tomorrow?" And I say, "I don't know. I haven't made a decision as to what shirt to wear." Tomorrow morning, when I decide what shirt to put on, maybe I want to put on a bright red shirt rather than this drab shirt. Maybe I want to dress better tomorrow than I did for you. Maybe I'll put on a shirt and tie and a jacket. Who knows? The point is, that's all free will. Someone traveling to the future is basically contradicting and negating my free will to decide what to do in the future if that person who travels to the future sees me. And if I can indeed change what I'm going to do in the future, then what the person sees in the future is meaningless, because it will be constantly changing as people change their minds. So, it's because of paradoxes like that I think, first of all, time travel is impossible. But second of all, is fabulous as a form of fiction. If, however, the fiction respects the paradoxes. So I'll tell you one example of a show on television which I like to some extent, but by and large it's not great time travel science fiction. It was canceled. They're going to come back with some kind of movie this December. It was on NBC for 2 years, Timeless. So it's a good show, but they start out by saying, well, you can't change history, and then they somehow manage to save Abraham Lincoln. And not only that, they don't even explore what difference there would be in our world if indeed they saved him. But the best example, and I won't tell you too much about it because I don't want to give too much away, but the single best example of any science fiction that I've ever seen in a movie, and then I'll tell you the best science fiction novel, but don't worry, it's not one of mine, I'm not that arrogant. But the best science fiction time travel movie I've ever seen is the 12 Monkeys movie. Not the 12 Monkeys television series, because if you've seen that movie, you know what I'm talking about. It respects the paradoxes. And the best time travel novel is Isaac Asimov's The End of Eternity, which also respects these differences. So, thanks very much. We've gotten now to the end, which is the beginning. And good luck if you ever try to go time traveling yourself.